So welcome everyone to the CTC Productivity webinar series. We've been doing this for, I think, over 2 years. We started it during the pandemic, really, when we realized that companies should be leveraging the power of 365 for their new remote workforce, and continued it because people typically don't understand the power of the technology. So thanks for joining us. With me are some of our team members, our fabulous team members. We have Nancy, who's our training expert and has the patience of a saint. She's an awesome contributor to our team. And then Arnie is our business process improvement guru. And again, just some of the members of our team, but this tends to be your webinar crew. If you're joining us for the first time, we do a 20-minute content discussion where, you do 20 minutes of content, and then we open it up for Q&A. But as we're going through any of the content, feel free to enter questions in the chat. That would be great. Today, the topic is how to manage multiple projects and deadlines. So we're doing a little mini series. One of the areas we're seeing with many of our clients is they are struggling with how to manage multiple projects and how to do that efficiently. So we're starting a mini series. We started it last month. This is the second one. And then we're going to have one more coming up next month. So hopefully you can join us for that. So the next month's topic is how to automate repetitive tasks with projects. And I will go ahead and enter into chat the, I'm going to enter into chat the webinar stuff. If I did it right. Jan. Did you get it? Okay, perfect. Thank you. If you haven't seen the past webinars, you can go out and check out any of them, but in particular, part one of this 3-part series, you can go check that out on the CTC website. And there's also a link there to sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and to register for the January webinar. So before I pass the microphone over to Arnie, I'm going to do just a quick little background. So first and foremost, we are not about just driving technology at companies. We're really about helping companies run more efficiently, helping them solve some of their most pressing business issues. And it just so happens we found that Microsoft 365 is an amazing tool to use to do that. Most of our clients, when we're talking to them about productivity and efficiency, are complaining about all the business issues that you see here, in particular around communication, collaboration, death by meetings is a pretty big common thing that we're hearing. So that's a little background as to why we started the series. In most companies that we're working with are staying with a hybrid work model. So it continues to mean that the Microsoft 365 technology is even more powerful because we need to get to cloud-based solutions where you can access anything from anywhere. So again, a great reason to be here to learn how you can support your hybrid work environment. And we're realizing companies are a very different place on the Microsoft 365 spectrum. We call it the Kool-Aid spectrum. Did they drink the Kool-Aid yet? Are they all in on 365? Are they still trying to figure it out? And so we're just starting to share some client success stories with clients we've been working with. This one comes from Jen Penza from Ardent Credit Union. These are just some of the reasons they felt 365 was a great piece of technology to invest in the work we did with them. So what they're saying is make sure you do it right. That's a critical thing. But when you do it right, it works amazingly. And let's see, in particular for them, they really love the marriage between desktop and phone and that you can access everything from everywhere. And this was a critical strategy for them because they were all in on staying with the hybrid model, and it's helped solve that solution for them. So just a little background as to maybe why you might want to consider exploring 365. And now I'll hand the mic over to Arnie. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jan. Hi, everybody. Today, we're going to cover a little bit, as Jan said, about managing multiple projects and deadlines. You wouldn't think that would be too difficult, but of course, if you've got dozens or in some cases hundreds of projects, that can get quite difficult to manage that many dates. So today, we're going to cover how to streamline those management schedule overview tasks and managing the dates using SharePoint lists. And if you've seen any webinars that I've done, I absolutely love SharePoint lists. I discovered them 20 years ago. They're not a new technology, but they are quite versatile. And I use them for a lot of things. We're also going to learn how to eliminate recurring schedule update emails by using a single centralized list. Too many times executives and managers of many projects get inundated with emails. And if you watch any of my webinars, you also know that I do not like email very much. And we're also going to, as Jan said, this is a series. Last month, we built kind of a building block for the finale that we will cover next month. But in doing what we do today, we're going to prepare to combine deadline and status reporting for all one dashboard. A great thing about SharePoint, Teams as well, but SharePoint you can roll into Teams. But in SharePoint, you can aggregate information from many lists, many libraries, and actually even other apps onto one page. So I'm all about building dashboards so that those busy managers can do everything in one page. So speaking of those busy managers, who benefits from streamlined deadline management? Well, as I said, managers of project work groups, executives and organizations of all sizes. We find that this is a huge need in engineering organizations, firms, for example. That's their job. They manage many projects with, sometimes each project has 5, 6, 10 deadlines. So that's a lot of dates to manage. And also it helps those employees, often engineers, who are managing the schedules and deadlines for their projects. And each of those project managers may have many projects. So that's a lot of juggling. And last but not least, it benefits clients, because the less time you spend managing your internal information, the more time you can spend pleasing the clients. Your clients don't care how hard you have to work internally to manage your own information. So the less time you can spend managing your information, the more time you can spend on your clients. One thing we found is that, my gosh, Excel is also powerful, but people use it for everything. And while it certainly can help you keep your dates straight, I have an example here. Rows and columns, all the dates over there. But the problem with that is it's just a hodgepodge of just dates that all look the same. And of course, you can do conditional formatting. You can sort and filter and all that. But the problem is that's mostly manual, except for the conditional formatting. But every time you get in here, you've got to manage these dates by sorting or filtering. So let's talk a little bit about the problems and how organizations currently do it. First of all, if you do it in Excel, every deadline column must be repeatedly sorted and filtered. Every time someone goes into that Excel spreadsheet, they have to manipulate the views to meet their needs. And yes, you can do it with macros. There's different things you can do in buttons and all that, but that's not the best solution. Plus, unless somebody manually does it or knows advanced Excel, past and completed deadlines don't fall off the spreadsheet. So those remain there and clutter the picture. We want a clean overview is really the purpose of today. So in Excel, there's no high-level overview without recurring manipulation and status updates about, hey, boss, we're late on this milestone. We finished this milestone. Bosses don't want to be inundated with emails. They just want to know quickly, where's everything stand? And is there anywhere I need to intervene? So I saw this as I was doing a little research, and you've probably heard this before, but this fella said, I love deadlines. I like the whooshing noise they make as they go by. Now, I know none of us let the deadlines just blow past us. We all do a good job. We all make sure our deadlines are met. The problem is how much work does it take to make sure those deadlines are met? So the solution is a project management dashboard. Dashboard, again, is a SharePoint page. I call them dashboards. I don't think that's the formal term, but it works for most people. So for leaders, in this case, if they have a dashboard or maybe a battery of 2 or 3 dashboards, they need only one web page to just get up to date as fast as they can. Again, we want to limit how much time it takes to do our internal work so we can focus on clients. And the engineers and the project managers out in the field doing the work, likewise, we can design a dashboard for them where they only need one page to quickly get their work done internally and get their schedules updated.
Hey, Arnie, I'm going to interrupt real quick. I would love if the crowd is listening closely, if we're touching on a nerve or something, you're like, oh my gosh, I would love to be able to do that. Enter in chat. I'd be curious what's resonating with all of you if you're in the mood.
Right. And even though I'm usually doing this techie type stuff, my passion is improving processes, which, and bottom line, it means we're reducing the amount of internal churn that organizations have to do just to get the product out the door. So that's my main purpose. And I love this stuff because it does just that. The bad news is you got to wait till next month to see the dashboards get built. So last month we built a part of the foundation. This month we're going to build more. The good news is today we're building one of the most important parts, which is a schedule and deadline list. And more good news, the other webinar's already been done. So if you were there, you don't have to watch it again. If this is your first webinar in the series, go back and watch last month's. It's out there on the links that are in chat. So a refresher, last month, here's the diagram I used. The status updates that people generally give, maybe weekly, on all their projects. We help the leader out by having the project managers or whatever employees they are, rather than sending emails to the leader, they enter their information into a single SharePoint list and save the leader a lot of work. Likewise, we're going to do the same thing today. We're going to build a project list. Probably, maybe we should have done this webinar first, but that's a long story. It's in this order. So if this is if this is the first one you've watched, you're in good shape. Go back and watch last month's. But yeah, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put all the deadlines, all the milestones, the schedules, the project information into a single SharePoint list. So here's a SharePoint list. You can see that looks a lot like Excel, rows, columns. It's prettier than Excel, but it does so much on the back end, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. So to build your custom list, we don't go deeply into how to build a custom list because, number one, that could be obsolete next month when Microsoft changes the menus and such. And it's not a difficult skill, but we just don't have time in 20 minutes to go deeply into how to build a list. But bottom line is you build a SharePoint list and you put all of the columns in that list that meet your needs. And generally, it's things like project name, project description, go down. Maybe you've got a standing, I like red, yellow, green for the dashboard purposes, whether the project's on budget, off budget, what's the status, maybe the client information. And then you get into the dates and you'll see, I just put generic milestone 1, milestone 2, but then also I like to put a second column in there so that when, in this case, someone answers yes, that milestone 1's completed, it falls off all the views that we build, all the dashboards, to where it doesn't clutter the landscape any longer. So the difference between this list and last month's list is, if you're familiar with Access or relational databases, this is kind of the one in the one-to-many relationship. If you're not familiar with that terminology, that's okay. But bottom line, what it means is you want all of the columns in which there is only one answer for each project. So last month, you may remember, if you watched, that I pointed out in building that list, the project name was a lookup list that ties to this list. I hope I'm not confusing you, but let me show what I'm talking about. So here's the list we're going to build today, or see the results of. I narrowed it to one column. I put et cetera down here. There's a lot more columns likely, but then here is the list we built last month. So you look, you'll notice there's project name in both of those lists. And last month I said, there's a lookup column in the webinar list. You just tie it to the project name for this month. It helps with preventing spelling errors. It keeps it nice and consistent, but most importantly, it gives you a consistent link between any list that you might build associated with managing projects. And next month, I'll show how that common thread is powerful in a dashboard. So bottom line of everything I've said right here, even if I confused you, is when you build the status update list from last month, when you're adding columns and you have project name, just look for the lookup choice in data type, and it's pretty intuitive from there. So back to the list, a little bit of show and tell here. Here is the, I like to say it's the default necessary ugly view of the data. It's all rows, all columns. And well, if you look at the bottom, there's a scroll bar. When you're doing SharePoint, if at all possible, it's great to not have a left-right scroll bar. Nobody likes to scroll left and right in their internet browser. Up and down is acceptable, but not left and right. So while this is a useful view when you're manipulating lots of data and cleaning it up, perhaps, if you didn't know, you click up here in the red circle and it allows you to choose other views. A strong point of SharePoint lists is you can build lots of custom views ahead of time. It keeps people from doing that manual manipulation of the data. But when you click on that drop down, you'll see a bunch of these lists that I have already built, including the one at the bottom that says webinar view delete. That's note to self, hey, delete this view when you're done. So there you go. So you notice here is a view I built in preparation for next month's dashboard that shows only those projects where this concept column that's highlighted in blue, where those are due in the next 14 days. So as a high-level manager or even a project manager, I can very quickly see without the clutter of all those other dates, SharePoint tells me, hey, here are the 2 projects where the concept is due to be delivered to the client within 2 weeks. Helps me plan my days, and I did not have to manipulate any data. Likewise, here's another one that shows where the second milestone has projects due in the next 2 weeks, and here's another milestone and yet another milestone. And again, you'll see next month how these views that I just built come in very handy for building the dashboard. And this view highlights all the milestones that have not yet been marked as complete. So this shows you a little bit of the conditional formatting. So just very quickly, you can see that, oh, all these ones that are highlighted, they're still on our radar. They're going to come at us, and you can review those as you want. And if you're not familiar with SharePoint lists, if you double click on any of these project titles, it will open up all of those, an item page that shows all of those columns that we added to the list. So even if you don't show the columns in a view, they're always available if you just double click on an item. So this is a good view to include in dashboards, and it shows just the standing. A lot of executives and higher level managers, they just want to know how things are going. They don't need to know how the sausage is made or see it being made. They only care about, are we doing okay? Red and yellow, do I need to jump in and help? If it's green, honestly, really, we don't even need to show those that are green. It's assumed that it's green unless otherwise stated. So a better view for an executive's dashboard would be this one that shows only those that are in danger. The executive knows if it's not showing, it's going according to schedule. So great way to get executives, high-level managers up to speed in just seconds. A lot better than that spreadsheet that we saw earlier. And here's one of the most important views. If you're not familiar with SharePoint lists, or maybe you are and just don't know this functionality, but the views you can filter. In this case, I want to show my projects because I don't want to be bothered with other project managers' clutter. Show me only my projects. And while you're at it, show me only my projects where status is not equal to complete. So you can put all kinds of filters on it. But in this case, if you're wondering, when you build the view, SharePoint lets you put the word me, M-E, in square brackets. And when you filter a column based on me, it says, okay, who is logged into this computer? Oh, Arnie's logged into this computer. Show only those where project manager equals Arnie. And finally, like most of 365, all of those many apps that Microsoft has given us through your license, almost all of them can be rolled into Teams. We always preach to our clients, preach maybe the wrong word. We suggest, if we preach, we're telling them, hey, you're silly if you don't do this, but we suggest strongly that try to make it to where your employees never have to leave Teams. That makes,
Arnie, they probably say preach.
okay, good. Okay.
We get on our soapbox, so yes.
Yeah, so preach, give a political speech, whatever, on a soapbox is the key word. But yeah, we're so passionate about that make life easier for your employees by rolling everything into Teams. So that wraps up the deadlines and milestones for multiple projects. It's pretty fun stuff, but it really gets fun next month. So back to you, Jan. Jan, you're on mute, I think.
Sorry, I was yelling at my teenage daughter while you were talking, Arnie. You put signs up, be quiet, and they're still not quiet.
Oh,
So
well.
I'm going to go ahead and do a couple wrap up slides, and then we'll open up for Q&A. But go ahead, if you have any questions about this topic or anything 365, feel free to start entering into the chat. So we just like to do a couple slides because often companies will find us on YouTube and think this is all we do. So yes, we definitely do a lot with consulting, process improvement work, leveraging Microsoft 365. It's a huge area for our focus, one of our services. But in addition to that, we do a lot of training, a lot of coaching. I do executive coaching, and often what works fabulously is that I'm coaching the leadership team at the same time we're doing some process improvement work, Microsoft 365 work, because then we're really seeing firsthand what the real business issues are and able to connect the dots between how the technology can help. So it works really well. We do a lot of public speaking as well. And just a reminder, again, Nancy, you want to enter into chat, that'd be fabulous. If you want to sign up for part 3, which is next month, the link will be in there to register for that. You can also go back to the past recordings and see part 1 that you missed. And certainly we'd love to have you sign up for our newsletter, learn about upcoming webinars and lots of other productivity tips. And I think we're on to Q&A. So feel free to unmute yourself and just ask the question or enter in chat, or even share your perspective. Like, what is it you're excited about with this? What might be a view you'd be love to see? Any interaction is welcome.
I see a question. Okay, yeah, I'm not on mute. So how did you integrate the lists into Teams? Hopefully in Teams, you obviously already have your team built that meets the permissions needs, the access gets the right people in, but then, the second step in Teams is to build your channels out. Once you have your channels to match your processes or your departments, the tabs across the top, you'll see a little plus sign. You click that plus sign, and there are multiple ways you can add lists, and you want to play with them to see which works best. But you can add a SharePoint list or dashboard by using the website choice. I find that often works well. Microsoft has improved the, when you're adding a new tab, you will also see SharePoint, and I think you'll see SharePoint lists or SharePoint page. I'm going from memory. Those both will work. Sometimes they have drawbacks. So when you add a list to Teams, try all 3 of them and see which has the best look and the best functionality. Hopefully that answered that question.
It might be easier if I just unmute myself. That was helpful.
Yeah.
So Is SharePoint pages the same as SharePoint lists? You're using them interchangeably, or are those two different applications?
Oh, awesome. Great question. They are different.
Okay.
When we talk about the Microsoft app called Lists, what Microsoft did was, lists have been around for 20 years, as I said.
Okay.
The problem is, and Microsoft finally realized this, was that, everybody only used SharePoint for document libraries, and they actually underuse that as well.
Yeah.
They don't even know that the list functionality is there. And in my opinion, lists is just as robust as document library. And Microsoft said, well, hey, why don't we pull the list functionality out and make it its own app? It's still SharePoint. It's still the exact same product. It's just you're using the Lists app to access the list functionality in SharePoint. So, and then pages are, in SharePoint, you have always had the ability to add a new page. I've got to be honest, most organizations don't even know you can do that. But when you build a SharePoint page, they used to call them web part pages because the pages are made up of multiple little boxes on the page where you can pull in each box, you can pull in different information from different locations. So it's super powerful. And I just call those pages dashboards, but they're just SharePoint pages.
Okay. Thank you. And then I have one more question if I'm not taking up too much time.
That's okay.
No, this is great.
Okay. So we currently use, I think it's Task by Planner,
Right.
but the functionality is really limited. All it is just a very simple list. And so then I have, like you were mentioning, I have to track progress elsewise. And so I'm looking at a couple of different places when I'm managing projects. So you're saying that like, if I convert our project planning from task to list, it will then centralize all of my like the dashboard. It'll create a dashboard view, and I can look at progress, I can look at deadlines, and I can look at notes in one place.
Yes, you can do it. And don't give up on Planner too soon yet. Make sure that you know how to build separate plans, and within those plans, different buckets. So
yes,
you're exactly right, though. Planner is awesome for ad hoc tasks and such. And it works real well for projects, but sometimes if you just want more, SharePoint lists are just much more customizable, as you are obviously suspecting than Planner. So you can manage project tasks in either Lists or Planner. It just depends on how much customization of that list you want.
Okay.
So I just want to pop in here too. So with your plans, when you have multiple plans, you can use Power BI to build some of those dashboards and pull from multiple plans into Power BI to see graphs and status updates. So if you do have a lot of plans, you may not want to, as Arnie said, throw that out yet and move over to SharePoint lists. Just take advantage of some of the other 365 apps that are there to how to filter data and create a dashboard that shows you what you want from multiple plans.
Okay, that actually might be better for us because our planner is very well built out, but it's difficult to track progress because everything is just in a list format, and you can, like, within a project, there are usually like smaller tasks that I need to assign. And so instead of creating a whole nother card, I just want to be able to add those notes in and then assign it to a specific person. But I can't do that without assigning the entire card. But you're saying that I can use Planner and then possibly another 365 application to do what List will do for me then? So
no, it builds you those dashboards so that you can see the status.
Okay, it'll just build the dashboards. Okay.
Right.
The one caveat I'd say, Power BI though, it takes a kind of a more unique skill set. Not everybody can do it. So it's a very robust tool.
Okay.
So yeah, there's no bigger fan of SharePoint lists than me, but Microsoft is starting to make me a real believer in Planner. It gets a lot done. So Microsoft is obviously trying to herd everyone into Planner, so they're going to continue to improve it. So even though you could certainly build a robust task management tool in lists and it would meet your needs. Someday Microsoft's probably going to make Planner so useful that you're going to want to go over there, and then you've got to migrate. So
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
It's
This is very helpful.
Yay, thank you. There's a lot of options,
Yeah,
which is
seems
either
like
good
it.
or bad, depending on your perspective.
Mhm.
Perfect. Any other questions? These were great. Or yeah. All right. Any other questions about 365 as a whole? Doesn't need to be about SharePoint.
Jan, I've got a question about lists.
Yeah, thanks, Todd.
Ari, nice to meet you. Sounds like you're the expert with lists. I'm just curious. It sounds like, we don't have much familiarity with lists, so this is kind of new for myself in my office, but it sounds like it's fairly robust and can build out to anything. I'm curious, are you able to do things within lists with basic formulas like you can in Excel, say, kind of track hours in addition to, like, in the context of projects, the amount of hours that somebody might be assigned to work on that project?
right, yeah, you can do lots of formulas in SharePoint. If I had to take a wild guess, I would say you can do 60 or 70% of the formulas that are in Excel. At least you can do the most common ones like if, then, and things like that. If you're doing very heavy financial calculations, or the purpose of the list is to do a lot of formula-based work, you might be better off to stay with Excel. But if your need for formulas and data crunching is pretty common stuff, lists are awesome because lists handle crowds much better than Excel does. So you can give end users a much better end user experience in a list than you can in Excel, because Excel is powerful, but it doesn't play well with crowds. You get people in there messing up rows, and you can't easily set permissions on rows. SharePoint lists they're built for crowds where you have many people either entering data or consuming the data. List is just a better choice than Excel. But if it's heavy number crunching, play with it, but Excel is just built for number crunching.
Arnie,
Great,
can
thank
you?
you.
Thanks, Todd. That was a great question. And Arnie, on that note, you can protect things better in SharePoint, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Another reason why.
Yeah, I guess the bottom line is you want to try to move to lists if you can, providing it meets your formula needs, and it can meet a whole lot of formula needs. And then it gives you the back end ability to then display that information on dashboards that are targeted to employees or work groups.
That's great. I guess my follow-up question then would be, if we were to go down the path of building out some SharePoint lists, do you feel like that's still a worthwhile investment at this point? I'm just kind of circling back on your comments regarding Planner and kind of Microsoft's push towards that. I mean, you see that as a couple of years off yet, that they're going to kind of make that the primary tool, and lists will stay around, or?
Yeah, Microsoft realized we've got too many task management tools. They've got tasks in Outlook, they've got tasks in To-Do, tasks in Planner, tasks in SharePoint. They're wanting Planner to be the task management tool. And I just encourage people to make sure you know all the functionality and where it's headed. And if you can, go to Planner. But SharePoint lists are just so robust on everything else that lists will remain a beast in the data tracking world.
So Todd, often we're building a solution that's a combination of Planner and SharePoint together.
Okay.
Yeah, so list is not going away. It's just that Planner is getting more and more functionality, but we're building more solutions with the combination of the two, so that they also then link down with the To-Do app, because there's that wonderful waterfall from Planner down to the To-Do app.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, Microsoft knows we have to build this stuff to play well together. We want it all to dovetail. So whether you pick planner or lists for your task management, number one, put a whole lot of thought into which one to use, but regardless which one you pick, both of them can be displayed on SharePoint dashboards
Okay, great. Thank you, guys.
and in Teams.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. All right, any other last questions? These were excellent questions. Way more fun to challenge Arnie and Nancy.
That's fine.
All right, well, I guess we'll wrap up then, though. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any remaining questions. Happy to answer it. Arnie, nice work as always. Nance, thanks for chiming in, and have a great holiday, everyone. We won't see you. So have a wonderful holiday. We'll see you in January.